This is Michael Popok, and by the looks of things, it's time for, you guessed it, Legal AF. We can't forget about Mar-a-Lago and the criminal prosecution of Donald Trump in the middle of all this immunity discussion. We got to talk about the new 400 pages of now unsealed, unredacted documents and information about the underlying FBI investigation, and we do it in one place. You know where it is. Legal AF, the podcast. Here's a clip. So let's turn to... well, let's compliment Karen first because I love being with Karen. There's a reason we enjoy doing these back and forths together, and we don't slap our forehead and say, "Oh, is this again? I got to do another Legal AF midweek." I hate. We're trying to clear everything out of our day that doesn't really matter in order to do it. And that's what we've done today with a little bit of an earlier taping for Legal AF. Let's turn to Mar-a-Lago, and I'll leave it on this. So what do we get new there? Still waiting around for Judge Canada to do the right thing. She dismissed last week, denied last week a couple of motions to dismiss that were filed by Trump's co-conspirators. At least the Oliveira and at least the butler and the, I almost called him the Undertaker, the butler and the maintenance worker are going to a trial. Question is when, and if Donald Trump is going to be next to them or not. But their bid to try to dismiss their indictment failed. Now, for those that watch around the world, we try to do most of our trial work and things that end up on the docket, the electronic filing system, in public, especially about civil and criminal cases. This is how we operate. There's no star chambers. We don't do things in a box. We don't, yes, things can be blacked out and redacted, but things need to be put onto the public docket, not to embarrass people, but so that the public, who is a stakeholder in our criminal justice system and in our civil justice system, knows what's going on, right? And isn't kept in the dark. And that's why there's often fights about the timing, especially in a criminal case, of when information that was used to obtain a search warrant or has been used in the case or submitted to the judge is going to see the light of day. It may not be right at the very beginning because of the sensitivity about grand jury secrecy and protecting witnesses. It may not be the first month or two. It may be a year into the case, which is what we're learning now. I mean, that execution of the search warrant was a year ago, August. It wasn't 2 years ago, August, was it? Maybe it was 2 years ago, August. We're just getting now information about the search warrant and on the public docket. That's the way it works. Judges, there's always a tension. Judges are always pushing the prosecutors to put more on the public docket at early intervals and rip off the Band-Aid of redacted tape, the black tape that sometimes we see on documents, to get the public who have a seat at the table of criminal and civil justice to let them know more. And prosecutors, of course, are like, not yet, Judge. It's still an ongoing investigation, or we're still doing interviews, or this is still grand jury testimony, needs protection. So there's always that tension, and that's healthy. Even in the hands of Judge Aileen Cannon, it's healthy. And now we've got 400 pages, some redacted, of information. What did we learn that we didn't know before? I never knew that it was called plasmic echo. That was the name that was assigned. I don't know. We'll have to find out why in somebody's memoir down the road as to it was listed as an investigation into the possible mishandling of National Defense Information, NDI, which is an Espionage Act violation. That there was loose surveillance, an FBI term I had never heard. I've been doing this a long time. Loose surveillance of Trump Force One, the airplane that Donald Trump flies around and likes to brag that it's bigger and better than Air Force One. Yeah, they wanted to figure out whether there were boxes on there that belonged to you and me with national security information or not. And so they did that. It was also revealed, as we suspected, that after some initial surveillance and beginning investigation, that Merrick Garland, our Attorney General, gave the green light to a full-blown, quote-unquote, full-blown investigation involving this, that there was coordination, as we suspected, between the Secret Service leadership and the FBI and their field offices in order to execute those search warrants without tipping off who? Donald Trump. Because he's got, as we talked about earlier, he has 24/7 Secret Service protection. He had it then. He has it now. Most ex-presidents have it, even if they're not running for office. In any event, Bill Clinton still has a security detail running around with him for his appearances. So there had to be coordination. You can't just like FBI, boom, and the Secret Service is there on the other side with their weapons drawn. We would like to avoid that. friendly fire incident that happens at Mar-a-Lago. So there's coordination. Just the same kind of coordination I just reported on MeidasTouch between the Secret Service, the prison directors, and law enforcement about maybe Donald Trump going to jail or prison. That's going on too. Same thing here. So there was discussion that leadership in the Secret Service, leadership for the FBI, the field office Washington, field office local for Miami was involved. We now know, as we suspected, local U.S. attorney present from the Southern District of Florida in that office, and also from the Department of Justice. They listed it as a counterintelligence attorney for the Department of Justice. If I had a guess, that's going to probably be, it'll come to me in a minute. Oh, I was on a roll. I promise you, before this is over, I'm going to tell you who that was. Jay Bratt. Jay Bratt, who's also on the special counsel's team and does some prosecuting in the case, was involved with the initial negotiations with Evan Corcoran to try to return the documents. I would be shocked if he's not the lawyer for the DOJ that was on site during the execution of the search warrants. We learned all of that. We learned there was a safe, a real, they called it the 45 safe, right? That they had to open and look inside and see what was there. Locked cabinets, locked drawers. This is the stuff the Secret Service was facilitating. And this is interesting because of the way we thought about it, the mental picture that we got with the photos, with all the documents spilled out on the floor and the boxes that they found stacked up in the ballroom and the bathrooms spilling out with NDI on the ground and all that. I only had it in view. I hadn't really thought about this Secret Service role in all of this. I just saw it as like, knock on the door, FBI, boom, everybody move. But they were coordinating. In fact, the lawyers original for Donald Trump, Evan Corcoran, and I think Tim Parlatore, told the government that they wanted to be like watch or be there during the execution of the search warrant. The government said, no, it's okay, we got it. And they wanted to try to watch on video cameras. They were like, no, you're not doing that either. But there was this coordination with the Secret Service. And there's other information we're starting to get out about statements that were made by the butler, by Walt Nauta, co-conspirator with Donald Trump, promises that were made, according to Walt Nauta, about a pardon. There's some of that there underneath all that black tape, which is interesting. And it just reinforces my original observation with Ben on the weekend is like, why haven't these guys turned on Donald Trump and gone state's evidence, gone witnesses for the prosecution? Because they are delusional, and they're living in a world where Donald Trump returns to the White House, and they're banking on it. It's like, is it going to be red or black? I don't know why I'm doing dice when I'm talking about roulette. Is it going to be red or black at Vegas? They're like, oh, it better be black, because if it's not, or better be red. That's a better way to put it. Or they're screwed, because they're going to get convicted, in my view, even by a South Florida federal jury in Fort Pierce, which is a little dicey for the prosecution with the evidence they have against Donald Trump. And by then, they will have the benefit, the prosecutors, of everything that's happening up in New York. Just as I said, the Manhattan DA sat in on the E. Jean Carroll civil rape and defamation punitive damages case ×2. They sat in on the New York civil fraud case to watch Donald Trump and his lawyers in action. They'd be fools if they didn't. And they learned, right? It's like machine learning. They learned. And they're using it now against Donald Trump in the courtroom with this intel. Same thing, Jack Smith. I don't know if there's been reporting of any feds that are in the room, but believe me, they are getting the transcripts. They're getting the reporting, hopefully like on Legal AF, and they're learning, and that's going to bring, they're going to use it and bring it to bear in the trial when it eventually gets set, whenever it gets set by Judge Cannon. So that's a little bit of a Mar-a-Lago update. Sometimes if we don't talk about things, it's because there's not major, massive things that have happened. But in Mar-a-Lago, we thought this was a new bit of information that needed some analysis and context on it. Welcome back. That's what we do, Wednesdays and Saturdays. We call it Legal AF for a reason. Join our show. You'll find out why. If you know everything you need to know about Legal AF, we really thank you that you're part of our audience already. You know what you can do to help us? Take that clip, send it off to friends and family and people in your life, and you say, hey, I really like this show, Legal AF. Maybe they will too. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and that's possible, that was Legal AF, and I'm Michael Popok, and I invite you to join us Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, only on this YouTube channel for the video version, and then on audio podcast platforms of your choice. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.